Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Tiara Ayuningtias. I come from Economic Education University State of Jakarta. On this occasion, allow me to present a research proposal entitled Business Scale Influence Analysis on Employment in the Manufacturing Industry Sector in Indonesia. Chapter 1, Preliminary. Issue background. Indonesia is ranked 4th largest population in the world with a population of 269 million, equivalent to 3.49% of the world population. This large population has caused an increase in unemployment. This is because the rapid rate of population growth is not accompanied by the rate of employment. According to Pranita, unemployment can cause various kinds of economic problems in this country. There is the emergence of crime, the decline in economic people purchasing power. Unemployment can also disrupt the stability of economic country because the large number of people who work should be able to create high productivity but decrease with the emergence of unemployment in this country. Based on the data from the Daily Sindo News, the unemployment rate per August 2019 was 7.05 million. This figure is greater than the previous years, which was 9.82 million people. The problem of unemployment can be overcome by providing employment in various industrial sectors. According to the Sindo Daily, the manufacturing industry is the high sector in absorbing labor. According to data from the Tirto ID Daily News, the manufacturing sector has absorbed 18.25 million workers in the 2018, equivalent to 14.72% of the total national workforce. Data on employment in the manufacturing sector from the 2015 until 2017 show an upward trend. In 2015, there were 15.54 million workers. In the 2016, 15.97 million workers, and in the 2017 it rose to 17.56 million workers. Industry Minister Erlangga Hartanto is optimistic that the manufacturing sector will continue to increase in absorbing labor. And the next, identification of the problems. 1. The minimum number of jobs compared to the number of available workforce cause the absorption of work to be more stringent and employment opportunities to be increasingly narrow. And 2. The emergence of small and micro industry can affect employment. And 3. The emergence of light and medium industry can affect unemployment. Restriking the problem. 1. Small and micro industry or IKM in the manufacturing sector affect employment in Indonesia. And 2. Large and medium industry or IBS in the manufacturing sector affect employment in Indonesia. And 3. Small and micro industry or IKM and the large and medium industry or IBS in the manufacturing sector affect employment in Indonesia. Formulation of the problem. 1. Does the small and microeconomic or IKM in the manufacturing sector affect the absorption of labor in Indonesia? And 2. Does the small and micro industry or IKM in the manufacturing sector affect in the absorption of labor in Indonesia? And 3. Does small and micro industry or IKM and large and medium industry or IBS in the manufacturing sector affect the absorption of labor in Indonesia? Research function. 1. Theoretically, this research is expected to provide knowledge and insight about the Indonesian economy, especially regarding employment in the manufacturing sector, both the large and medium scale industry or IBS, and from the small and medium industry sector in IKM. And 2. Practically, the results of this study are expected to be the basis of the government in overcoming unemployment through the manufacturing sector industry. Chapter 2. Literature Study. Definition labor come from Naila. Naila say, workers are all people who are willing and able to do work, include people who work for themselves or who work for family even they do not get paid, or those who are able to work but unemployment because there are no job opportunities. Labor. Definition of labor come from Mido. Mido say, labor is the entire population of country that can do work in production goods and services. If there is demand, they want to participate in that activities. And then Undang-Undang Nomor 13 Tahun 2003 tentang Ketenagakerjaan mengatakan, labor is every person who is able to do work to produce goods and services to meet their own needs and society. And the last, Emily Limantic say, labor is content to meaning. First, human resource contain the meaning of business, work or service that can be provided in this production process. And second, concerning human who are able to work and provide economic value to goods and services that are useful to meet the need of community. And the next, definition of labor absorption come from first, Kunchoro. Kunchoro say, labor absorption is the number of the jobs that have been filled as reflected by the large number of people employed. The worker population is absorbed in various sectors, and therefore employment can be said as labor demand. And Abdullah say, labor absorption is amount of labor absorbed in a sector in a given time. And then Todaro and Smith say, absorption of labor can be defined as the receipt of labor to carry out their duties as they should, or a situation that reflects in the available of work or employment that can be filled by job seekers. And the last, Simanjun Tak say, labor absorption is a condition in which how many companies will employ workers with a wage level for a certain period. Indicator of employment have 3. First, minimum wage change. Minimum wage change rate is inversely proportional to employment. If the minimum wage increase, the absorption of energy will decrease further, and so on. And 2. GDP growth rate. Absorption of labor be seen from the growing of GDP. If the GDP growth is high, it will cause the high employment. And then the last, investment growth rate. According to Tambunas, say investment is major factor in the long-term economic development. This results in higher of labor absorption because economic growth certainly requires high productivity through employment. Labor theory. Labor theory comes from Adam Smith classic theory. Adam Smith say, their belief that humans are major factor in the creating and prosperity of nation and growing the economic capital. Other capital factors are only needed when the economic starting grow, which driven by humans. The division of labor is also needed so that work is more efficient and can find new way. Next, definition of industry. Definition industry From Undang-Undang Nomor 5 Tahun 1985, industry is an economic activity to process raw material, semi-finished material, and or finished material into goods with a higher value for their use, including industrial design and engineering activities. And 2. Undang-Undang Perindustrian Nomor 3 Tahun 2014, industry namely all form of economic activity that process raw material and or utilities industrial research so as to produce goods that have added value or high benefit, including industrial activities. And then Kementerian Industri Indonesia tahun 2014 say industry is an economic activity that process raw material and utilities industrial research to produce goods that have benefit, products, and add value. And the last definition of industry come from Sukirno. Sukirno say industry is a company that carries out economic activities that are classified the secondary sector, such as textile factories, assembly plant, and cigarette factories. Meanwhile, according to its broad meaning, it is a plot to process raw or semi-finished material into finished material in order to obtain profit. Industrial classification. Industry have the classification based on labor. 1. Home industry and employing 1 until 4 workers, and small medium employ 5 until 19 workers. Medium or medium industry employ 20 until 99 workers, and then the last large industry employment 100 or more workers. Small and micro industry. According to Rahayu, IKM is an industry that produces a variety of products and used in various human or the other living needs with a maximum wealth of 1 billion rupiah. And according to Nababa, micro and small industry are industry which of workforce of 1 until 4 people worker for micro industry and 5 until 19 worker people for small industry. The classification is based on labor, regardless of whether the company uses machine or not, and regardless of the capital owned. According to the Office of the Minister of State, Cooperation and Small and Medium Enterprise, small and micro industry are body owned by Indonesian citizens, both individuals and entities, that have net asset include land and building as much as 2,000 million and or have maximum turnover or output value of 1 billion rupiah per year. According to BPS, small and micro industry are industry have 1 until 4 workers for home industry and 5 until 19 workers for small industry. So, conclusion of IKM. So based on some understanding of small and micro industrial, it can be concluded that small and micro industry are industrial classification that employ 1 until 4 employ workers for microeconomic industry and 5 until 19 workers for the small industry with a maximum wealth of 1 billion rupiah exclude land and building. Small and micro business. Micro business criteria: 1. Has maximum net worth of 50 million rupiah excluding land and building, and then 2. Have annual sales result of the most 300 million rupiah. Small business criteria: 1. Has net worth of more than 50 million rupiah up to 500 million rupiah, and then 2. Has net sales of more than 300 million rupiah up to lot 2.5 billion rupiah. The characteristic of small and micro industry: first, its business activity are not well organized. 2. Do not have a business license. 3. The pattern of business activity is not focused on work hours and business location. And 4. In general, the government economic policies did not arrive. And 5. 6. The unit easily switched to other sectors. And the last, simply technology. Large and medium enterprise industry. According to Ministry of Cooperative and Small-Medium-Sized Business are business enterprises that have net worth of the more than 200 million rupiah until to 10 billion rupiah excluding land and building, which the highest turnover of the 15 billion rupiah. According to Undang-Undang Nomor 20 Tahun 2008, medium-sized business is a productive business that is independent, either owned by an individual or entity that is not a subsidiary or branch of a company that is owned, controlled, or is a direct or indirect part or small business or like. This criteria of small business is preferred to in this law has net worth of more than 500 million until to in this law has amount of the more 500 million to maximum of to 10 billion excluding land and building, or has annual turnover 2.5 billion to maximum or building industry according to Pramono. Pramono is an industry that uses a workforce around 20 until 99 people and has the characteristic of using substantial capital, work have certain skill, and well as company leaders have managerial capabilities, whereas a large industry or industry that employ 100 or more people have large capital and or collectivity in the form or shareholding. Work have special skill. Company leaders are selected competitive people through due diligence. According to BPS, large and medium industry are industrial industry that employ more than 99 work for the large industry and 20 until 99 work for the medium industry. Conclusion for IBS. From the various meanings above, it can be concluded that large and medium industry are industry classification that employment until to 20 until 99 people for medium industry and more than 100 people for the large industry, with the characteristic of having large capital, labor has special expertise, and leader have certain managerial expertise. Characteristic feature large and medium industry. Medium industry. First, relative large capital, and then advanced technology but still limited. Location of marketing is relative wide or sector regional. 3. And the last, company leaders have certain managerial abilities. Large industry. First, very large capital, advanced and modern technology, organization, a large and skilled workforce, national and international scale marketing, managerial leaders have managerial abilities. Company leaders are chosen based on the shareholder meeting based on their expertise. Theoretical framework. Influence of business scale, IKM and IBS on employment absorption in manufacturing industry sector. This study will examine the effect of the small and micro industrial sector or SMEs and the large and medium industrial sector or IBS on employment. In this case, the research relates to manpower as human resource that carry out economic and industrial activities, which are the sector that play a role in absorbing labor. Human resources are a major factor in the economic development of a country. This is consistent with Smith's theory, which says humans are a major factor in creating prosperity, and economic balance, which is the opinion is contrary to the theory Malthus, which say the rate of human growth can be disastrous because it is not accompanied by an economic resource. In this case, a large population growth rate, not accompanied by large employment, can cause unemployment. Industrial is one sector that absorbs labor. A large number of industrial will affect the workforce absorption increasingly high. Therefore, it can be concluded that the industry had an effect on employment. Research hypothesis 1. It's suspected the large and medium scale of industry or IBS have a positive and significant effect on employment in Indonesia. 2. It's suspected that small and micro industry or IKM have a positive and significant effect on employment in Indonesia. And then 3. It's suspected that IBS and IKM together have a positive and significant effect on employment in Indonesia. Chapter 3. Research Methodology. Research purpose. This study aims to obtain true and valid knowledge will be studied theoretically and empirically about the magnitude of influence between independent variables of influences, namely the number of large and medium industrial units or IBS and the variable number of small and micro industrial unit or IKM on the dependent variable, namely the absorption of power employment in the manufacturing industry sector in Indonesia. Place and the time of research. Place of the research. The study was conducted or provided in Indonesia. The scope of national research is due to be able to find a lot of research data and diverse research time when the study was conducted for approximately 3 months starting in the June until August 2020. Place and the time. Research method. The method used in this study is ex post facto method, or the method used to see the sequential event that occur and find out the cause and effect of the event. The variables used in the study are the number of large and medium industrial units or IBS, and then the number of small and medium industrial units or IKM, and as well as labor absorption variable analysis by panel data method. Data types and source. Data type. The data used in this study are secondary, namely the data is available in the form of number or called quantitative data. In this study, the data used are data of the number of IKM and IBS as well as labor absorption data from the 2014 until 2017. Data source. Data in this study were obtained from the Central Statistics Agency and from the other operating source. The data in the form of the time series data from the 2014 until 2017, and also cross-section data from all provinces in Indonesia. Operationalization of the research variable. 1. Employment. Conceptual definition. Labor absorption is the amount of labor absorbed in a sector in a certain period. Operationalization definition. Labor absorption is the amount of the labor absorbed in the sector at a certain time. In this study, labor absorption data used were from 2014 until 2017, obtained from the Central Statistics Agency or BPS. Small and micro industry or IKM. Conceptual definition. Small and micro industry are the industry classification that employ 1 until 4 workers micro industry, and 5 until 19 workers for the small industry with a maximum of 1 billion rupiah or excluding land and building. Operational definition: small and micro industry, small scale industry which have less than 20 workers. In this study, this data used are data on the number of IKM units in 2014 until 2017 obtained from the Central Statistics Agency. And then the last, large and medium industry or IBS. Conceptual definition: large and medium industrial or industry classification that employ 20 until 99 people for medium industry and more than 100 people from the large industries, which the characteristic of having a large capital, the workforce has special expertise, and leaders have certain managerial expertise. And then operational definition: large industry is large scale industry with a minimum number of the workers of 100 people, while medium industry, namely medium scale industry, employ at least 20 people worker. In the study, the data used are IBS data from the 2014 until 2017 obtained from the BPS. Data analysis technique. This research was tested by panel data regression analysis, where the data used are time series and data cross-section. Data time series is data collected from the several different years, while cross-section data is data taken at time but with the different individual objects. Data analysis technique. First, testing for normality and linearity. Normality test to find out whether there is a normal distribution or not, and then linearity test to find whether or not there is a significant linear relationship between variables. Is there in influence between variable or not? Testing 2. Testing classic assumption. To choose the best, the panel regression equation using the heterogeneity, multilinearity, and autocorrelation tests. And then 3. Multiple regression analysis. To make hypotheses by testing 1. Partial signification or t-test, and simulation signification or if-test, and coefficient determination. Panel data regression analysis. Choose the best method between 1. Common effect model, fixed effect model, and the last, random effect model. Selection of panel data substability estimation model. First, Cow test, Hausman test, burst pageant or Lagrange multiplier test. And the last from my presentation. Thanks for all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.